All right, welcome back. Here's the fun part of the project where we're moving backwards. As I mentioned before, I'm gonna have to get this car ready to move. It's obviously not gonna move under its own power. I need to get engine and transmission back inside, get everything bolted back in and at least inside of the car so it's able to roll around. And first to do that, before I do all that, I need to get my steering column back in so I can at least turn the wheels with the steering wheel. So that's kind of the bare minimum. If you're looking for how to make progress on your project, this is the opposite of that. So what I'm probably going to do is, since I'm crunched for time, I'm probably just going to set up a time lapse. I might do a voiceover. I might, well, I guess if you're seeing this, I will make a video, but I might not make a detailed video about any of this. It's not it's really just coming along for the ride. It's not so much progress, obviously, on working on the car. Okay, it doesn't look like much, but shaky as it is. I got the steering wheel in, steering column all in, and then over on this side, steering box hooked up. I did have to use a jack just to jack up the, I'm honestly not sure the names of the things, but jack up the part that goes into the receiver so I could get the nut on there. And I just noticed I am spilling power steering fluid all over my jack. Fantastic. Yeah, I could have sworn I got all that out a while ago, but better out than in, I guess. All right, I was kind of surprised. I kept turning the wheel back and forth from stop to stop and it just kept pouring out of there. So, hey, I'm glad I got that out. But just for funsies, gee, I wonder why the power steering was leaking. So this entire system is going out. I've got a one-piece Borgson box that, replaces the control valve and everything, so I don't have to worry about this system in the future. For now, I'm leaving it in there. We're just going to throw the motor back in, probably put a bag over the end of these hoses so they don't leak anymore. But we're leaving it be and putting it back together. Okay, we are back, and I borrowed the lift from my buddy again, so I'll be able to hopefully drop that engine in. My goal for today is to get the engine in and mounted. First, I got to dig it out from under this pile of cardboard and panels and whatnot. Okay, to prepare for this, I am going to get the export braces out of the way. I don't know that I need to, and the engine might fit down in there without him or with them in place, but easy enough to just unbolt them, move them out of the way. I'm also, just so I don't have to lift the engine so high, I am going to kind of move the Mustang so I have some room to work around and walk around it and put it down on all fours. Okay, I have the export braces or arms here out of the way. My car came with a two-piece. I have a one-piece separately that's one of those things that was going to go on once I got this wrapped up. But anyway, we are, I think, cleared and out of the way. I've got all of my harnesses that I have yet to fully remove, kind of front and back here, zip tied out of the way. I've got those really ragged, rough looking power steering lines zip tied up and out of the way. So I should be able to drop the engine down right onto its mounting blocks there without any problems. One thing I did do, just because if you recall the bolts I pulled out of here when I pulled the engine and transmission, it was a mismatch of hardware, the wrong grade hardware and everything else. I did buy one of the body kits, and it came with, there we go, engine insulator to body brackets, which should be the exact right hardware I need to mount the engine up here. So what I'm going to do is get everything prepped, get everything safely secured and up off of the engine mount, and then just kind of carefully dance and move it around and see if I can drop it in without breaking too much. Okay, so there's everything, I think, order of operations. double check all my bolts and make sure the legs are down on the lift, all the stupid stuff that you can forget. Double check my engine lift plate on top there, make sure that's all snug still. I haven't touched it since I lifted it out, but just in case. Then take the engine weight off of the engine stand, make sure it's secure, loosen the stand, get that out of the way, and then slowly move it over and get it ready to drop in. Yeah, let's see how this goes. All right, we have the engine free of the stand fairly uneventfully, knock on wood. I don't know how this all didn't drain out before, but you can see my rag stuffed in there. It's dripping water. I think it's just because of the angle it's at. So I'm just gonna let it sit here and drip for a few minutes and get out whatever it can. No point in packaging it up with tons of stale water in it. Okay, there's a saying that any 1 hour job is one broken bolt away from a half-day project, or something to that effect. In my case, it's any 1 hour job is one stripped bolt away from being a 3 hour project. So, as you probably saw in the time lapse, I got physically the engine in there. I was working, got one of the mount bolts in, got the other one most of the way in, then proceeded to damage the threads of the bolts as getting it on the other side. Now I understand why whoever did this last had mismatching bolts and incorrect sizes, because they, I think, ran into what I ran into. There is an easier way to do this that I didn't do because I kind of thought I was better than I actually am. And that's to loosen the mounts either from the engine or the side, get everything lined up, and then tighten everything down. Takes a little extra time, but if things don't line up perfectly, you save yourself a ton of headache, like I just ran into. Anyway, I lost the battle but won the war, and you probably can't see it down there. I finally took the bolt out, touched up the threads, got it actually in place with the proper bolts. It's secure. Well, it's as secure as it was before because the mounts are basically shot. So this engine is in, it's bolted in. That is a huge, huge step. It's still early afternoon. I could probably work on getting the transmission into. Yeah, why not? Okay, if you recall, I had the transmission on this little table jack here, or scissor jack, lift jack, whatever you want to call it, which makes it really convenient to move up and down, which is very helpful. The problem is it is quite a ways off the ground, so I need to lift the front end of the car. If I recall, it's a little bit further than my jack can support. So I've got some extra tall jack stands. I'm going to, as safely as possible, get this situated under the car. Yeah, and I think from the side is the best way to do this, at least in my setup. Okay, this is not the sketchiest thing you could do with a car, but it's far from the safest. I cannot stress this enough. Don't do this. Do not get under a car, especially if it's held up with something like this. I have jack stands underneath the cross member there with the suspension mounts a few inches below. I also have these large stands, or pipe stands, just on the front. I am not working under this car. I did enough to push this transmission in and get clear, and I'm gonna safely lower it to a better height now. We're actually on the jack stands. This is, and I also have it chalked both wheels in the back. So this is definitely a do as I say, not as I do moment. Okay, I get it. I get why some people prefer to put the engine and transmission as one unit in together. Getting those lined up enough to mate up and then attaching the torque converter to the flex plate that was a beast. I was not anticipating it would be that difficult. And you have a terrible angle on it, but there it is, all mated together. Of course, they didn't mate together properly. It's the wrong bell housing for that transmission anyway. But, you know, at least it's on there. It'll go into park and stay into park. I'm happy. Okay, the only things left to do right now are to get the transmission cross member reattached so it holds that transmission, and then put the drive shaft back in, and I guess connect the shifter so I can actually put it in park and keep it from rolling around. So yeah, let's get going. This garage isn't that big, but I, for the life of me, cannot find that transmission cross member. It's got to be up here, right? One of these bins, one of those boxes. It's somewhere. I'm looking everywhere in every single box I've got, high and low, for this thing, and it was sitting right over there on the bench. So lovely. All right, these are the transmission mount bolts. I just went ahead and chased the threads with the die just to clean them up. This one had a little bit of a flattening on some of the threads from who knows what. Yeah, these are the bolts where when I took them off, one of these nuts, which is obviously the wrong size, was just kind of jammed on there like that, holding it, holding the transmission. So lovely. I am replacing them with, I realize these are not the right grade, but they are the right thread pitch, and they will hold a lot better than just shoving this on here. It's never going to be driven around, just rolled around and parked for now. So just enough to hold it on there securely, just for transport. All right, I wanted to share something just because I'm mildly annoyed. So I already have these bolts instead of fishing out new ones, which in hindsight at this point I probably should have. I'm sitting here, I'm trying to fit the socket on the bolt, and it's not going on. I look at it, and the head, let's see if I can show you this. The head is mushroomed out. Someone was whacking on this with a hammer. I mean, no wonder the threads got damaged, and by then they couldn't put the right nut on, so they just threw the bigger nut on. Like, come on, guys. Take 2 minutes, do it right. So yeah, I'm just gonna touch up with a file, just really quickly, get the mushroomed area off, just so I can put a socket on and get the right thread on there. Okay, we've got the engine and transmission back in. I think that's it for today. I'm gonna do the drive shaft another time once I can move some things around and get this lift back out of here, give it back to my buddy, and I'm almost ready to move my car back in. How about that? It's amazing how much room that engine and transmission took up. Just kind of like all this space right here that I obviously filled really quickly with other junk. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for sticking with me. It's you know, obviously not doing much work on the car, just kind of following along the saga and seeing where the move takes us. So yeah, I'll try to keep you guys posted on how it goes and as it transitions to its new home, and we can check out the new garage space once we get there.